Hello and welcome back. Believe it or not, we're only a week away from getting our hands on Hogwarts Legacy, a game that many of us have been waiting an entire lifetime for. In today's video, I'll be going over Hogwarts Legacy's accessibility features, and the article that I'll be referencing comes straight from wbgames.com, and I'll leave a link to that article down below in the video description. Let's waste no time and jump right into it. The first category for accessibility features is the visual category, starting with text-to-speech options. Hogwarts Legacy will feature narration for menu items, and this will be available in all supported languages. And I'll also leave a link to the official supported languages page below. All players will be initially guided towards the text-to-speech feature on the first launch, allowing for the most complete customization of the player experience right from the start. They're basically saying you don't have to search through 10 different settings pages to find this option. On your first load up of the game, it should be easily found and you can turn it on if that's something that you want. We also know that the volume and voice of this menu reader narration can be customized. Now moving on to camera shake, which will be a visual effect in the game, but the cool thing is that we the players will have the ability to change the intensity of the camera shake from 100% all the way down to it being completely off, which is 0%. I'm not sure if this will be a slider or how it will work, but it's nice knowing that we will have full control. This game will, of course, feature colorblind modes, and the colorblind preset modes will edit most of the UI and HUD elements that might not be accessible to all in their original colors for players that may need them to be tailored to protanopia, deuteranopia, or tritanopia. There will be text scaling, but to what degree we're not entirely sure yet, as we're told that this option is offered to scale the majority of in-game text to larger, easier to read size. So that's always a great accessibility option to have in a game, and you'll also be able to set the background of the text to either pure black or white, depending on the screen, to be easier to read. And while on the topic of making things easier to read, there will be screen magnifier compatibility as well, and players will be able to use PlayStation Zoom and Xbox magnifier whenever needed. I've never tried something like this myself before, but I can certainly see that being useful, especially for those of you who may play far, far away from your screens. In terms of visual display settings that can be toggled on and off, we will be able to do this with motion blur. And I'll explain this quickly just in case any of you aren't really exactly sure what this is in video games. If you have motion blur on, when you pan your camera around in a video game, the environment around you will appear blurry. While you're moving the camera quickly around, you won't notice as much when you're panning the camera slowly. Now, this setting can increase realism and sense of speed, especially if you're on your broomstick in this game. But a lot of people still do prefer this setting off, as it's not always implemented that well in many video games. Now, one idea here, if you are going to be playing the game in its Fidelity 30 FPS mode on console, or maybe you just have a really bad PC, motion blur can actually help smooth the game out a little bit, as you won't be able to notice the frames as easily when you're moving around. But the catch-22 here is that having it on can also make your system work a little bit harder. Chromatic aberration can be toggled on and off, and this is basically a setting that simulates lens distortion, and it can give game visuals more of a cinematic look. I guess you'll have to decide for yourself if this looks good. Depth of field will be toggleable, and is that a word? Toggleable? And this is an effect in which objects within some range of distances in a scene will appear in focus, and objects nearer or farther than this range appear out of focus. So basically, do you want things far off in the distance to be more clear and focused looking, or does it look better for you or work better for your eyes for those objects to have more of a blurred effect? And the last setting in the display department is the film grain setting, and this effect can add a little grittiness to the visuals, which may make the game look a little better for some of you, as not everyone necessarily prefers a purely clean image. We'll have to wait and see how it turns out. Moving on to the motor category, which mostly everyone seems to mess with at least a few of these options. There will be an aim mode in Hogwarts Legacy, which allows players to alternate between hold and toggle. So in this game, I think this would probably equate to, do you want to keep your wand ready to aim at a target by you having to hold down a button, or would you rather click that button once, which will put your player in the ready aim position, but then have to click again to get out of that aiming position? In terms of camera sensitivity, the sensitivity of the cursor, aiming, and camera can be adjusted independently, which is of course nice. And camera and aiming accelerations can be tweaked, as well as camera dead zone. Also, the speed at which the camera turns to face the direction in which the avatar is going can also be tweaked. Now, for all of you freaks of nature out there, the camera axis can be inverted independently, and flight controls for your broom flight can also be inverted. I know a few of my friends, when we grew up playing video games, the default setting used to be inverted, so a lot of them still play that way, but it does seem to be pretty rare nowadays. If you're someone that uses inverted controls, let us know below in the comments. Now, an interesting accessibility setting that I'm not sure I've ever noticed in games before, but I'm sure it's existed for a while, is that your joystick functionality with a controller can be swapped in Hogwarts Legacy. The default setting will, of course, be using the left joystick for your movement and the right stick for camera controls while aiming, but you can swap these around if that suits you better. And then lastly, in the motor category, and unfortunately this is a PS5 exclusive feature, is players can use the gyro functionality of the DualSense controller to control flight while on a broom or mount. For those of you that don't know what this is, basically PlayStation players will be able to tilt their controllers to control the movement while flying on a broom or mount. I guess it could be pretty cool. It's probably not a big deal, but it would be kind of a cool feature, at least to just test out. Now on to the very important cognitive department, starting with difficulty options. Hogwarts Legacy will feature 4 difficulty options: story, easy, normal, and hard, and each option will affect both combat and puzzle difficulty. We also know that in story mode, spell learning minigames that require precise movement cannot fail, and puzzles will also not be time sensitive in story mode. This is only for story mode. It'll definitely be interesting to see how Avalanche software scales this as you move the difficulty up. Another important detail that I shouldn't leave out here is also that the game's difficulty can be changed at any time during normal gameplay, and that comes directly from this accessibility page. I'm not exactly sure what normal gameplay means precisely, but I think most of us can probably guess, like, most of the time you can switch the game's difficulty around. I don't think that that means that you can only change the difficulty when playing on the normal difficulty. In terms of game tutorials, yes, there will of course be pop-ups that teach us how to do things. Most of these tutorials, we are told, will remain on screen until they are dismissed by the player, so you don't have to scramble to try to quickly learn things as they pop up. In terms of objective reminders and guidance, quests will be organized in the menu in different subcategories. The players can be guided to those objectives with in-game lore-friendly guidance. And I think what this is referring to is this magical golden streak that you can see in the gameplay that I'm showing right now. And if you do want this type of guidance that leads you directly and tells you exactly where you have to go, this is an option for you in Hogwarts Legacy. All right, 2 more departments and then we can wrap this video up, starting with the auditory category. We will have individual volume controls for music, sound effects, and dialogue. I always hate when I get a game that doesn't offer at least these 3 settings, so happy to see this in Hogwarts Legacy. For subtitles, they will be turned on by default, and speaker indicators are tied to important character lines. The subtitle size will scale with UI text adjustments. Hogwarts Legacy will feature spatial audio for varying speaker setups, which is always good, and there will be an audio visualizer. And this is described as key sound effects can be visually displayed on a wheel around the avatar during gameplay to assist players who might be deaf or hard of hearing. A legend is available for the icons that are displayed under Audio Visualizer icon key and accessibility options. The icon size and transparency can be customized. And the final category, as of this article from WB Games, is the general category. And thank you to all of you who stuck around this long. I know this is probably a bit more of a boring video than my regular content. But for settings tooltips, all settings are accompanied by tooltips to inform the player of what is affected by that setting. And also in terms of autosaving and manual saving, I'm sure this is a common question, autosaving will be a feature in the game and it will save progress at key moments during gameplay. but we players can also create our own save files as well, so good news in that department. And that'll be it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll leave a link below to my most recent Hogwarts Legacy video, which is an in-depth lore video going over the ghosts that haunt the halls of Hogwarts. I'll catch you all on the next one.